All right, for more on the turmoil in D.C., let's bring in Sahil Kapoor, senior national political reporter at NBC News. Sahil, great to have you with us. What's your understanding of the timeline of when we will have a speaker in place?
Hey, Melissa. Well, it's not clear yet. What we do know is we expect House Republicans to huddle early next week, likely on Tuesday, to talk amongst themselves in what they're calling a candidate forum for potential new speakers to introduce themselves to the conference and make their case. Then they could get in a room together and vote as early as Wednesday and see if they have a consensus choice. Now, remember, they could do this one of two ways. They could get a majority of their conference, pick a speaker candidate and move to the floor, and then see what happens. That's what they did with Kevin McCarthy, and he ended up needing 15 ballots to get elected. One thing that former Speaker McCarthy said to Republican lawmakers, according to a source I spoke to in a room when he announced his intention not to run again yesterday, was that they shouldn't do that again on the floor. They should all coalesce behind a candidate and then move to the floor to avoid, to save the country from that spectacle. So who is it going to be? There are some candidates who are already in the mix. There is Steve Scalise, currently the House Majority Leader. He officially announced his intent to run today, put out a letter to colleagues. He is the natural heir to Kevin McCarthy's speakership. There is Jim Jordan, the first candidate to officially announce. He used to be a far-right agitator who ended up becoming the chair of the Judiciary Committee. He's ubiquitous in conservative media, a favorite, certainly, of many on the right. And then there's Kevin Hern, the chair of the Republican Study Committee, who, before the Freedom Caucus came along, that was the conservative group. He is actively considering a run. He has not announced yet. Those are the three key names to watch right now. Everybody else I would consider a dark horse. Far from clear who's going to get the support, guys, because, former Speaker McCarthy spent his 9 months in the job dancing on the knife edge of functionality and paralysis. Is anybody going to be able to do a better job with this narrow majority when you're dealing with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic White House? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, which leads me to the question, Sal, which is, the reason given by many of the 8 Republicans who basically voted to oust McCarthy was fiscal responsibility and a desire for more of that. Do any of these leading candidates have that ability, given the dysfunction within the party?
That's the million-dollar question. Can any of these candidates do what Speaker McCarthy could not do in that job? And remember, the reason that Kevin McCarthy was not able to do more about, reducing the deficit and getting discretionary spending cuts that many Republicans want is that Democrats control the Senate. Democrats control the White House. Joe Biden is president. You have to get him to sign a bill in order for it to become law. And Kevin McCarthy did favor much more in terms of spending cuts than the Senate would accept. So the question becomes, how can any of his successors get the Democratic-led Senate to accept more spending cuts than they're willing to now? And I got to tell you, I've spoken to numerous senators today in both parties, and they say the answer is emphatically no. You're not going to get a more right-leaning candidate in the House of Representatives to be Speaker and force left-leaning senators to accept cuts they won't. And by the way, you guys, I heard you guys talking about entitlements and mandatory spending cuts. That is off the table. I got to tell you, even Kevin McCarthy, even his right-wing hardliners say they don't want to touch Social Security and Medicare. Those programs are very costly, but they're also very, very popular. And there simply isn't the political will. They're talking right now about 30% of the budget, discretionary spending, and half of that they don't want to cut because it's Pentagon. So it's really a small sliver of the budget that they're even having a discussion about. I would not expect anything meaningful to happen on the debt or the deficit, no matter who becomes Speaker.